Thank you for joining. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and then just tell us a little bit about the beginnings of your college career, where did you end up? Like, just give us some insight into you.
Okay. Well, my name is Cyrstal Ramos. I am currently a junior at Texas A&M San Antonio. I am majoring in marketing. I hope to really connect with people. I want to take this degree and get out into the world, whether it be in front of students or perhaps in like a nonprofit, something like that. I just really want to be connected to the community. Before I came back to school, I was working a full-time 40-hour a week job, and I just wasn't doing what I wanted to be doing. I felt like I could give more and I could be doing more. And so just kind of on a whim, I quit my job and I came back to school. So it's been a major transition for me.
Sure. How long ago was that?
This will be my third semester, so it
Okay.
was October of 22.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What a big shift. So, you already explained a little bit like why, to an extent as to why you're choosing to major in what you're in right now, but what saying that you were working that 40-hour job and then saying that wasn't what you were wanting to do, like where did you build those connections to choose that major? And once you've actually graduated, what do you hope to do with it?
So, in my career, I did see a lot of how my company connected with the community. And so, what I did was I went into a lot of those job postings and I started reviewing the degree requirements that they
Mm,
had. And the one thing that I did not find that was very easy was there were not a lot of schools close to me. When I made the decision to come to A&M San Antonio, I had to find something that was going to fit into that realm, and that's why I chose
mm.
marketing.
Well, going back to your research, I think that's a unique way to look at it because I think when I was a transfer student, I don't know if I would have had that foresight to say, oh, these are the things
Mhm.
I'm interested in. What are they looking for? I probably would have been like,
Right.
somebody just tell me, right? So I
Right.
love hearing that piece of it because I think while other transfer students are going to relate to your story, I think it's interesting in the approach you took. Um,
Yeah.
with that being said, because you talked about your decision and how you were able to plan out where you were going to go, did you like was there anything like did anybody help navigate you in that process? Um, how were you prepared to make that process to transfer
Mhm.
to make that decision? If you want to elaborate a little bit on that.
So I don't think that I was prepared. I think I researched the education part of it, but I
Mm,
wasn't prepared for the actual transfer. Um, and so part of my decision was based on my husband. So my husband had gone through a career change. He went back to school and it actually worked quite well for him. And so while he was at school, I got to get a feel of what the school felt like, what the institution did for him, what campus life was like, student life.
mhm,
And so that was really what pushed me to want to come here. But once I had to go out and find all of my transcripts, fill out all the different forms, call the different offices, confirm with everyone. I was really navigating blindly because
mm,
when my husband transferred, he just came from one institution, so and they had a great connection with Tamusa. So his transition was a lot more streamlined than mine
mm.
was.
Yeah. And knowing that, it sounds like it probably wasn't what you were expecting compared to like how your husband went. So what were some like major frustrations you encountered or some surprises you encountered in that process?
I think the thing that was the most frustrating was not getting the information that I needed. Um, I came from a place in my career where I had people that would find information for me.
Mm,
And so actually being on the phone and asking these questions and not getting the detail that I was used to was really hard.
right.
And so I would say, okay, thank you. I'd hang up and call right back and talk to someone else. And so it took a few tries before I would get the level of detail that I was used to. And now I know that I am absolutely detail oriented. So, like you said, other students may not want that level, but that was what worked for me. And so now when I'm connecting with students, I tell them that exact story. And I'm like, if you're not getting what you're looking for,
Right.
hang up and call right back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fascinating. I think it's interesting that you also found something else about you in this
Mm.
process because I think especially if you had one perception of how it would go, and then that is not the level of anything you were used to. I think
Yeah.
that that's really helpful. What would you say then from that experience? What were some of the like best parts, the worst parts about that transfer experience?
I think the hardest part was putting myself first. Up until that point, I was supporting my husband as a wife. I was supporting my
Hmm.
kids as a mother. I was taking care of my family. I was going to work. I was training other employees. So when I was coming to school, it was realizing that this was all about me. And it was very scary because I look quite different than most of the traditional college
Sure.
students. And so I was very worried that no one was going to talk to me. No one wanted me to be part of their group. And so that was really a struggle. Um, but once I just put myself out there, I mean, everything literally changed. It was a complete 180. And I'm just so glad that I did that.
Good. Yeah, that's nice to hear because we hear from a lot of transfer students that the process can be more frustrating than they anticipated it being. Like there's
Right.
something new, they were prepped, ready to go. They get into the process and like, oh, I didn't expect this or what have you. And sometimes that can sour that initial introduction
Yeah.
into higher ed. And so it's refreshing to hear that even through all of that, you persisted and not only persisted, but you're seeing that like it still was the best option for you. Um,
Right.
which I think is a really like I said, a refreshing. I would hope that that process would get better, right? Like in the future, but I think just the idea that it was still a positive experience for you, I think is really nice to hear for sure. So, did you say that you help support other transfer students now, or should you just
I
share your
do.
experience? Okay.
No, I do. So, on campus, I applied for a position and I was a retention coordinator supporting the transfer student engagement office.
Okay.
So, one of the initiatives that I kind of helped start on campus was the idea that rather than approaching students after there's already a problem, let's get in front of them. Let's give them all the information that they need before they realize that it's a problem. And so we started some onboarding sessions that we got some great feedback on. They did quite well. And then in that process, I started participating in a program on campus called the Silver Liners Mentorship Program. And this
Mm.
is geared specifically towards transfer students. And with graduation just happening in December, our lead mentor graduated. So I had the
Hmm.
opportunity to apply, and I'm now the lead mentor on campus.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so great.
Yes.
Is there anything that maybe you have shared with the other transfer students you've worked with, or you just wish you had known? Um, like before you actually went through the whole transfer process?
It's funny. We just had a conversation about this because we had our transfer student orientation. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I always tell students is don't be afraid to jump in head first. And there was a colleague who responded and said, the pool is only 3 feet deep. And once you recognize that you can manage it kind of changes your whole perspective. You're not afraid to jump in head first. You're not afraid to take on those challenges because they are completely manageable. They are all
Mm,
within your realm. And I really wish that I would have recognized that a long time ago.
yeah. You just have such a positive, demeanor, thought process to all this. Like, I want you to follow me around and just say, like, "Oh no, you could do this." Like, this is, yeah. I think that's awesome. Let me
Just a
see.
quick little
Yeah.
tidbit. So here on campus, we do something called Clifton Strengths. And
Mm,
one of my strengths is called woo, which stands for winning people over. And for a long time, I always thought that that was one of my weaknesses because I didn't want to be a people pleaser. I didn't want to
sure.
do things for other people. And this program and being here on campus has helped me to realize that that's not a weakness, it's actually a strength. And there are
Yeah.
so many people that just love connecting with me because I have that ability to put them
Yeah.
first, to take all of their individual needs and requests and kind of help them navigate that. And so I'm really excited now to say that one of my strengths is woo.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so awesome. Like, I can see you being a very helpful resource. Not just in the sense of like just because you have that strength, but the transfer process, whether it's a smooth process or not, is going to be challenging, right? Because you're going
Right.
from one thing to a whole new, ecosystem. Um,
Yeah.
and you need somebody like you in your
Right.
corner that just like keeps that excitement, that momentum, that um focus towards like what I like to call your North Star. Like, why are you doing this? Where are you trying to go? And I think that, yeah, 100% that is a strength. And is there anything else, because you've kind of gone through most of this in your conversation, anything else you want to share about your process, about being a transfer student, that wasn't necessarily asked or shared out already?
Um, Maybe just a couple. I think one of the things that was very surprising to me that I like to tell people is that I always thought that transfer was just something that you did. Like I thought of it more as a verb. It
Mm,
wasn't necessarily who you were. And being on campus and getting more involved with our transfer student engagement office, I've realized that by being a transfer student, that you instantly have access to this like special club, that others didn't realize was there. And so I hope to help people realize that so that they're showing up and they're participating
that's
in
all.
this club that they have,
Yeah.
and getting that support very early. I think that there is this incredible misconception that because we are transfer students and we've already been to another institution that we have it all figured out. I think they think that we know what we're doing. We're just going to come in and knock it all out.
Sure.
And that is not true by any means. I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't know how to ask questions. It doesn't mean that we don't know how to
Sure.
do things. It just means, like you said, a completely new ecosystem. Like you are just in this totally new realm of the world and you have no idea what's happening. So why wouldn't you be looking for someone that's, reaching out a hand to
Right.
you?
Right. Yeah.
And then I think in addition to that, I think that people have to recognize that that help needs to be bigger. There are a lot of institutions that have these small offices, or they have these small
Hmm.
teams of people that are providing that support. But when you consider that a lot of schools have over 50% of transfer students, they really
Yes.
need a lot more people participating. I mean, you really touched on it. Like, I just have this personality that wants to help people, but there are not a lot of people that are like that, that are just here for out of the goodness of their heart to make people feel at home. And so the schools have to recognize that that's what people are looking for. They're looking for that connection. They're looking
Hmm.
for that handout. They're looking for someone to just root for them. And we have to get the schools to pump more resources into that, give
Yes.
more spaces, give more time, give more incentives, all of those things to make people feel more encouraged to encourage others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point because I agree. I still find it fascinating how often, because like I work in the transfer office, um, how often I'll talk to other institutions and either A, they don't see themselves as needing to be transfer focused. And I'm like, I look into your numbers. You may need to be, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm
Yes.
also surprised at how they'll come to like our office has been established for about 10 years now. And then we have supporting transfer offices. So we just do one portion of it, but like we have other offices to help support the other. So we can really build out an ecosystem to support these students.
Right.
And how many institutions come to us and go, we're thinking about doing this. And I'm like, now? Um, so it's yeah, it's very fascinating that you bring that up because you're right. Like if you're a transfer student, people are like, well, you've been on another campus or you've done this work somewhere else, old hat at this, right? But
Yeah.
every institution's different, right? E- every institution is also going to make their own flavor of like a marketing degree or their own
Mhm.
flavor of these what you can see at other institutions as being like student clubs or student organizations. It's not going to be the same. And so to
Right.
assume that blanket understanding, plus there's all kinds of transfer students. Like we're seeing at ASU, our online programs have grown. I think we're about like 75% are
Yeah.
now transfer students. And
Yeah.
they're the um so I kind of took like a year off and now I'm coming back. Or I went from community college to, university. There are people who have been in the workforce for 10 years.
Mhm.
They have some degree, I mean, some credits, no degree. They're now going to come. They have full on family responsibilities, job responsibilities. Um,
Right.
that is, you cannot blanket that over those individuals because now they're coming in not just with this desire to get their degree, but they have other obligations. And so
Right.
that degree really has to work for them, right? So, um,
Yeah, and by missing out on forging that connection, you're really missing out on the value that all of those students bring. Each one of them can
yes,
contribute in so many different ways to the success, not just of students, but of the institution. I mean, here
right,
on campus, we have so many students that feel like they have made that connection and created that legacy, and they want to stay.
right,
And so they apply to be pro staff, they're applying to be faculty. And so when you dismiss transfer students, you're missing out on an incredible opportunity.
100%.